Welcome to the Torchlight Network. This is Dave Horwedel. The Torchlight Network has been doing a series of interviews of prominent business leaders to get their successful actions and how they are coping with the COVID pandemic and the government regulation. Today we have Frederick Shelton. He is the CEO of Shelton & Steele, a national search and consulting firm that specializes in working with attorneys. Today he's going to share some tips with us on how to build, activate, and most importantly, maintain a high-value network. So, Frederick, what are you doing to cope with the COVID-19 pandemic and the current situation we're in?
Sure. I actually took our firm virtual years ago. So this has had absolutely zero effect on us work-wise. We've been geared for this for about 6-7 years now. And I realized, just how much I have to be grateful for, because I've been doing for 7 years what everybody else has suddenly been forced to do, which is work from my home office.
Well, there you go. Now, are there any tips that you can share with us about what people should do who have to very rapidly cope with the home office, and perhaps even more so, how to get, adequate inflow in this time? Because I know myself, a lot of my clients, can't afford to pay me right now. So I had to do something else to procure more clients because, the casino industry and those guys, they're delaying filing their taxes. So what tips can you give us?
I cannot emphasize how incredibly fortunate I was. I used to work with law firms that would be the equivalent of the Big Four accounting firms. So these firms all had hundreds, if not thousands, of attorneys. And about 7 years ago or so, I came across an outlier, something really different. This was a law firm that still serviced the Fortune 500s of America. They still did purely business law. So they didn't handle consumer functions. They didn't do divorces or things like that. They did mergers and acquisitions, state and local tax, patent, that kind of thing. And the firm was a virtual law firm. Now, I'd never heard of such a thing, but I thought about it and I thought, attorneys have gotten so overpriced for corporate America. I can tell you every day, I run into attorneys who are charging upwards of $1,500 an hour to their corporate clients. And the general counsel I would speak to, they were getting sick of this. They're getting sick of getting gouged by these huge firms. And it used to be they would go with these big firms as sort of a CYOA, if you know what that means. So that if anything went wrong, they could say, hey, I hired, XYZ AmLaw 200 firm. But the boardroom, really you get more political capital if you're the general counsel of a large company and you walk in and you say, guess what? I got us the same level or better of legal representation. And I've saved us 30% on all fees in perpetuity going forward by finding a better vendor. That's where, a general counsel creates job security, is by being more proactive to save the company money. So I vetted the first firm, started recruiting for them, placed about a dozen partners with them in the first year or so. Then I started finding more and more of these firms. The oldest and the biggest was not a firm that I found appealing because they were virtual, but they didn't offer all the back office support. They didn't really do much in the way of cross-selling to each other or collaboration. It was basically a bunch of silos on the same website. And that's not what someone coming out of a 600 attorney firm needs. So we have now, out of 60 or 70 virtual firms out there, we have picked 5 that are actually the very best. They all have excellent pedigrees. They're all doing the finest, the work. The size, scope, and sophistication of the type of work they're doing is on par with all but maybe 10% of the largest firms in the world. And so we really did a deep dive into this. We also started looking at very high-end boutiques. So firms that specialize in target areas that my crystal ball told me would eventually be hot. About this time last year, I started focusing on bankruptcy attorneys because we had had a 10-year expansion, and no well runs forever. You know, eventually the market is going to experience a correction. So we picked a high-end, bankruptcy, started focusing on attorneys who did cybersecurity, things like that. And so our firm's brand, get this, in the COVID era, what we are known as experts on is virtual law firms, virtual lawyering, remote platforms, cybersecurity, bankruptcy, boutiques, all the things that were built for this and happen to be immune to what's going on because of their specific market position. So, sometimes you take a gamble, you make a decision, and as an entrepreneur, you hope you've made a good decision. Well, that market position was working pretty well for us already, but now it's just exploded. I mean, I've been featured and quoted in Attorney at Law magazine, Bloomberg, Success, Forbes. The phone's ringing all the time, and of course that's nice enough where we end up getting more clients as well. So, a little bit of luck, it has us, actually I've had to hire 5 people in the last month just to keep up with all the work.
Wow, that's very, very impressive. And it looks like it's a very good takeout that, you want to be looking forward to like what's going to be happening and position yourself correctly, which you did. And, you can say it's luck, but I would say it was probably a pretty smart move. Now, just out of curiosity, is there any other recommendations you would make as far as, marketing, putting up your network, anything like that, that the viewers might be interested in?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, a lot of people right now are experiencing the psychological symptoms of grief, okay? They're in denial, they're negotiating, they're going through depression, these kinds of things. I see people talking as if a month or 3 months or whatever from now, we're going to flick a switch and the strip will be what it was before. And the first thing you have to do is just acknowledge the reality. And it's really hard. And I feel really badly for a lot of my fellow Las Vegans. But if you're waiting for the casinos to come back, you're in denial. The people you see on TV right now who are saying, oh yeah, I came here from New York, and oh yeah, I came here from California. They were comped their room, they were comped their flight, they were comped gambling money. The casinos are basically creating a Potemkin village in the hopes that if it looks good for a while, if you build it, they will come kind of thing. But we've got to look at the hard reality. And the hard reality is that 40 million people were furloughed. Now, they call it furlough, but I guarantee you that for more than 25 to 30 million of them, what that actually means is laid off. And, whereas normally we have, I think, somewhere around 40 million people come to Vegas a year, something in that range. I would be surprised if we see 10 million. Where we have maybe 1,000 conventions a year with all those people, you can cut that by 70% or whatever it is. So you first have to acknowledge the reality. The second thing you do is you have to pivot. This isn't a time to go through analysis paralysis and be that deer in the headlights. You have to make hard decisions, and you have to change what you're doing. And you may have to start all over in a completely new industry. The way that I ended up hiring these people, I was actually fine as a solopreneur. It's a very chill lifestyle. You get up when you want, and if you want to go golfing on a Tuesday, whatever, you make a lot of money, you put in a little work, But I saw recruiters in my social media pages, and they were posting, you know, I recruit for the casinos and hotels, and I am absolutely dead. I don't even have hope at this point. And I saw someone else in retail who had lost $200,000 in contracts. And so what I did was I put it out there. I said, look, anyone who wants to be a legal recruiter, I'll teach you how to be my competition. And so I sent out sample contracts. I sent out 5 pages of legal jargon. I sent out a list of the rankings of law school, the list of the 500 largest law firms and their websites, everything, even our scripts, to probably close to 200 people now. And out of those 200, there were 5 who just really, really stuck out, and they were very persistent. Please, can I please work for you? So now we're up to 9 or 10, and now I have to put on my big boy pants and get up, you know, at 8:30 in the mornings and conduct a meeting every day. And we have to, you know, have standardized operating procedures and, you know, all the stuff that you do, because I've run a 2,000 person, you know, entity before, at least legal division. And, you know, you have to do things, you don't have to become corporate. That sounds so cold. But there are certain key performance indicators or KPIs that are going to tell you whether you as a leader are doing well and whether your people are going to succeed or whatever. So it was more of my kind of altruistic nature that had me hiring people than anything else. And I would say that if someone is out there and they're a vendor to the casino, they have got to start looking for something else they can do. They're just, you know, and what I used to do when I learned to become an executive recruiter, I went through every job in the want ads. This was back when we had those things called newspapers. And even jobs I wasn't qualified for, you know, I looked at and just would highlight all the ones that sounded appealing to me or sounded like, okay, good people skills, good communication skills, high level of persuasion, you know, strong leadership, whatever it was. And I kind of got this idea of, okay, here are some things I could do. Another thing that a lot of people are going to have to do is just move. If the job market is stronger in another market and you've got family or friends there or some sort of support system, you know, I mean, again, I don't mean to be a soothsayer of evil portents. I mean to be helpful to people who are trying to make really difficult decisions. And some people are just going to have to make those kinds of decisions.
All right. Now, do you have any, I mean, you just hired all these new people. How do you find clients that are looking for, give me a little, do you have just a already set up marketing system that it just keeps flooding you or what?
No, like I said, I've worked hard to, while all my competitors are going after the usual suspects, I've found these smaller, more esoteric, you know, boutiques or virtual firms or whatever, which has been largely ignored during the boom times. Because when the market is easy, everyone can succeed by doing what they've always done. When the market takes a downturn, it's not the biggest brands, it's not the most prestigious brands, it's those who can adapt to the new environment as quickly and at best as possible, who will not just survive, but will thrive in a market like this.
Very good. All right. Is there anything else you would like to share with our viewers today?
Yeah. Did you want to go into a bit about networking or?
Yeah, let's go into a bit about networking.
Okay. So as a headhunter, my network really is my net worth, you know, as the old saying goes. And so I remember, I think it was like in the 90s, Brian Tracy's Zig Ziglar days kind of thing, that I would see these gurus and sales trainers and stuff, and they would say, look, go to a networking meeting and your goal is to walk out with 50 cards or 100 cards or whatever it is. And I found that to be the opposite of what works well. What I tell my people to do is go to a networking meeting and find one person who's high value to you. Whether it's the CEO of a local casino who can give me comps to all the shows, or an attorney who I could do business with, anybody who could, or even someone who'd make a great friend, like a fellow golfer or chess player or whatever, because not a lot of chess players in Vegas, you know. But you find one person, you know, you find the person with the custom tailored, you know, bespoke suit, or now that business attire is so varied, a good way to spot is someone who looks like they don't care if they meet anybody. That's usually me at a networking meeting. I'm just standing there. I'm just as comfortable in my skin as can be. And I'll just wait until I see, you know, a woman with a $20,000 Chanel purse, which thank God I'm married and have a daughter. Now I know what those look like. You know, or if I see somebody and several people are walking up to them and kind of ingratiating themselves, or there's obviously a presence about them, that's a target. That's someone I'm going to walk over to and strike up a conversation with. I'm going to keep conversation away from the usual Beatitudes, you know, the, hi, how you doing? So what do you do for a living? You know, you want to exchange cards, whatever. The most annoying guy in the room is the guy who's looking at you and say, oh, you know, do you mind if I get your card? And they're looking for the next person they're going to meet. Oh, you've made such an impression. You know, I'll have some things like, so what do you do when you're not at work? And see if there's any commonality. You know, do they skydive? Do they scuba dive? Do they play tennis or golf? Whatever it is. You know, another thing I really look for is I am a philanthropist by nature, and so, you know, I'll ask about, you know, do you have any favorite local charities or anything like that? And if I find out that we share something like that in common, that's really a way to connect with someone, is to find a cause that you both think is meaningful, okay? But the thing is that anybody can get a card. Everyone gets cards all the time. It's knowing what the hell to do with them once you've got them. That's the difference between having a bunch of cards or V cards and having a network, an active network. So I'll walk out of a networking event, or, you know, come back from the country club or whatever, and maybe I've got 1 or 2 business cards. I'll put them in and I'll make notes about everything that we discussed. You know, oh, they've got a St. Bernard, lots of slobber all over the house, whatever it is, okay? And then within my network, I utilize what I call the rule of 3, and it applies to just about everything. There's the most optimistic, the pessimistic, and the in-between reality. There's your favorite people, your least favorite people, and the in-between reality, that kind of thing. So I categorize my V cards. And the rule of 3, number 1 group in this group is the most valuable people for me to maintain a connection with. And I typically work about 20 to 40 at a time. So maybe 1 month I'll call. I don't email. I'll call or Zoom, okay? I don't email or whatever, text, because we get so much junk email and so many emails from marketing and that kind of thing that it's just white noise nowadays, especially if it's a very generic, you can tell, hi, no first name or anything. I just thought I'd keep in touch with you because if you ever need a real estate agent, I'm here for you. Well, I really appreciate how much you deeply care for me when you write that email, all right? As opposed to the human voice. Pick 20 people. I have, you know, I always tell the recruiters, the people who work for me, it's better to have 5 CEOs who know your name, know who you are, and recognize your voice, than 5,000 V cards of Justin Bieber fans or whatever it is, okay? So I pick 20 a month or 40 a month. That's only 1 phone call a day, maybe 2. And they will hear my voice or see me on Zoom. So sometimes I'll just do 20 months. Like right now, I can only do 1 call a day. Okay. And then next month, I'll do a different 20. So a lot of the people I know, especially in the C-suites, they're traveling so much that, you know, some of our best friends, if we see them 3 to 4 times in a year, we see them more than their family, well, maybe not wife and kids, but, you know, their extended family or whatever. I mean, it's just the nature of that level of success in certain business sectors. So they'll at least hear my voice once every month or two. And that's such a huge psychological impact as opposed to everything else. From there, I'll pick 40 people, and sometimes 40 to 60 people, who I will send a very personalized email to every month, okay? So I'm sending out, and actually I have templates, and then I kind of fill in the blanks, and, you know, write it out. So, you know, hey, Susan, it's been a long time since I've seen you at fill in the Sterling Club. You know, can't wait till we can all get out to Dragon Ridge again to play tennis someday. You know, I hope you're doing well, whatever it is. So it doesn't take a lot of time, but it's still a lot more of a connection than what I call vanilla emails, which is, you know, one flavor fits all kind of thing. And then finally, the third group is everybody else. And I've got a pretty sizable database. I mean, we're talking 6 figures worth of V-cards. And so obviously I can't write all of those people a personal email. So what I do is I have a monthly newsletter for the people who I don't have. I only have so much time. And what I try to include is something that's incredibly valuable to them or helpful, or, you know, cat video never hurts, but, you know, whatever. So for example, we filmed my daughter while she was preparing a candidate for a Zoom interview. And we talked about the fact that, like, right now, the camera is above my forehead. So the view of me is not, you know, the biggest mistake is people set the computer down on their desk and you're looking at no chin line. It's just sort of this all one thing. And I've actually spent time watching a booger in a guy's nose go up and down while he was breathing, because the camera view was like you're looking straight up his nose, okay? Complete loss of concentration. No one heard a word he said. All of us were just trying to not laugh, okay? And so a video that's really helpful, or a news clip, or I get published and quoted a lot in, you know, national media and legal journals and that kind of thing. So I'll send out a link to those. And it's very important to send those out, because when people see that someone else has recognized you as an authority in your space, that's very, very different than when you say, I'm an authority in my space. Because everyone says, I'm an authority in my space. If they didn't, they wouldn't have any clients, you know? So we do a lot of work on branding, and I also help people, you know, learn about how to get quoted in Forbes or Success or whatever it is. My clients pay me to learn how to brand on a national level. So we'll do that. Another thing I do all the time as well is I'll go through my network and I'll try to find 2 people who would really benefit from knowing each other. If you can make an introduction to 2 people who have mutually benefited from it, for example, in the practice of law, the work that is considered the absolute bottom of the food chain, like the worst, is called doc review, which is short for document review, okay? So a first-year attorney will be handed a contract and say, okay, review this. And the accomplishment of his day could be that he found a colon where a semicolon should have gone. Okay, that's the level of excitement you're talking about. Okay, well, I've just recently I partner with a lot of companies. I write a lot about, you know, legal tech and that sort of thing, and there is now artificial intelligence that does doc review for attorneys. So I have introduced the CEO of one of the companies that I think does it best to several of my clients, which they really appreciate because that means no one needs to do doc review anymore. So if you want to really solidify and have both people saying wonderful things about you to each other, go out of your way to find introductions that you can make that will be valuable to at least one side, if not both.
Well, very good. That's a lot of valuable data, a lot of tips there. I also understand you've been doing a lot of philanthropic stuff here in Las Vegas. And if you want to speak on that for a moment, now would be a good time.
Okay, yeah, just real quickly. So me and my family used to make like 100 lunches every Sunday. So it'd be a fresh sandwich with juice and fruit bar and things like that. And we put face wipes in there and stuff like that. Excuse me just a second. We can edit this out. I'm hoping we can edit that out.
Hope so.
Okay, I'll start again. So it used to be that my family and I would spend our Sundays and we would make lunches, sandwiches, fruit juice, fruit bar, face wipes, bottle of water, whatever. And we'd make about 100 or so, and then we would go give them away out of the back of my SUV. Well, it's the COVID era. We can't do that anymore. So there is a local charity called Help of Southern Nevada. And they provide housing for the homeless when people are getting close to getting kicked out, but they've got a job, they're just waiting on their first paycheck. They'll provide rent assistance, diapers, all kinds of things. It's a really, really good charity. So what I'm doing is for the next month, anybody who pitches in $20, it's Frederick's $20 challenge. I'll match it. I'll match every contribution of any size up to $1,000 between now and July 14th. If we hit the $1,000, then from July to August, I'll match it up to $1,500. If we hit the $1,500, then I'll match it up to $2,500, which means that if we've got 2 million people here. If just 250 people chip in $20 a piece, we will donate $10,000 to this very, very worthwhile charity. So you have to donate $20 now.
There you go.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, well, very good. Well, I guess we're just going to be getting off here unless you have something else you would like to say in closing.
Yeah, I would say that the one other thing I would tell people is that COVID has shown us two things. Number one, no one has the luxury of not marketing. If you're a high-end professional, you can never rest on your laurels. You always have to be looking for new clients, different types of clients, your marketing strategy, that kind of thing. Number two is my life has taught me that, we have a saying at my company, if you're not already planning your next big change, you've fallen behind. Well, if you want to get through the COVID era, you need to adapt. You need to wear a damn mask because it's not to protect yourself, but for example, I have early stage COPD. Because so many people don't wear masks, I can't go out. They'll kill me. They'll kill me with a sneeze. So, stop thinking about yourself. It's time to think of others. Wear the damn mask, social distance, help. If you're prospering or doing okay right now, then the only question is, who are you helping besides yourself? Because if you're not helping others in this time of our history, shame on you. Yeah. So that's where I'd leave it with, just help each other. We all got to look out for each other.
Well, okay. Thank you very much, Frederick.
All right. Take care.